back then we didn't have social media. So what happened is you really wanted to make sure you had sponsors. Companies started sponsoring athletes. It had to basically lie.
Right, you couldn't say I took steroids.
Yes, and if you did talk about steroids, you'd be thrown off and your sponsorships would be done.
People don't realize 20 years ago, if you would go to your doctor and say, I want a prescription for testosterone, they'd be like, you're out of your mind. First of all, they wouldn't even know what it is.
Exactly.
They would be like, you're going to die from this.
You have a really good fat. You gave it to me and I'd love it, the macadamia.
The reason I love macadamia oil is because, first of all, I found out that most of the olive oil on the market is fake.
Really?
They put soybean. They lie.
Oh, yeah. So you're eating soybean oil.
Soybean oil is terrible for you.
And I've always tell people, like, you want to be the best, leave no stone unturned.
I will say one thing that really helped my stomach, because I think my best places were at the end of my career when I had shoulder problems or that. Of course, I discovered fiber.
Really?
And gut health. No one talked about that.
Rich Gaspari here. We have another episode of Beyond the Muscle, and I have my good friend and guest, Dave Palumbo, well-known top bodybuilder in the industry, as well as owner of Species Nutrition and RX Muscle. Great to have you on the show.
It's great to have you back, and he was so popular this last show, I had to come back.
Yeah, I got the Collin's next show, and here we're going to talk a little bit about some of the, let's go through some talking points, in bodybuilding. Back in the day, remember, it was like the big Joe Weider era. I was in that day, and I think you were part of that.
Just at the end.
Just at the end. But back then, we didn't have social media. So what happened is you really wanted to make sure you had sponsors. I mean, Joe Weider was my sponsor.
Right.
Other, companies started sponsoring athletes. So a lot of bodybuilders had to basically lie, or they got blacklisted.
Right. You couldn't say I took steroids.
Yeah. So the one thing back when I competed, we never admitted about taking steroids. Right. It was like a no-no. And if you did talk about steroids, you'd be thrown off and your sponsorships would be done. Right. So there was a lot of guys that would not talk about it because obviously, it's a no-no. But it's funny now how we fast forward into 2025, you go into social media. I mean, it's gotten crazy where, remember Rich Piano gives you exactly his cycle of what he took. Like, it's almost too much of what you need to take in steroids. And it's scary because, a lot of kids get impressed or by what they're taking. And I got to find this. Right now you have people using Tren like it's freaking war.
Tren twins.
Yeah, the Tren.
They name themselves.
I mean, listen, I use, Trenbolone, but I use Parabolin, which back then, and I tell people because I did another podcast and I said, I use maybe 2 vials, which are 76
150 milligrams a week.
I would take 150 milligrams a week.
Yeah.
Now guys are taking
a day.
Yeah, they take 150 milligrams a day of Tren, and they're going crazy on it. But I mean, so, what happened back then is, guys kept it almost hush-hush. It was very taboo to talk about steroids.
Well, Bill Phillips was the first person with Muscle Media 2000. That's even before Muscle Media 2000, he had those anabolic reference guide updates.
Exactly.
He would release, and he wrote that book, The Anabolics.
Head to Shape.
Yeah.
He wrote the book.
Put the Rat Steroid Handbook. I read that books thousands and thousands of times before I even took a first shot.
Really?
So I wanted to know everything about it.
Yeah.
I assumed, I was scared to use them, but I wanted to know everything. And once I started, understanding the science of it, I realized, I don't think they're quite as bad as people believe.
People do think they villainize, steroid usage today, but obviously, there's big famous people using it. We just talked earlier about, the Amazon owner, Jeff Bezos. Well, it's a guy who is from this out of shape guy to this built guy.
It's more acceptable nowadays.
Yes.
People actually write prescriptions. People don't realize 20 years ago, if you would go to your doctor and say, I want a prescription for testosterone, they'd be like, you're out of your mind. First of all, they wouldn't even know what it is. Yeah. They wouldn't know how to prescribe it. And they would be like, you're going to die from this.
Well, it all happened in 1992, the Anabolic Steroid Act.
Right.
That passed.
1990, yeah.
There's a 1992.
Yeah, they made it a controlled substance.
Yeah, 1992.
It was 92, okay.
Yeah, so 1992, I remember because I was competing that time. So then all of a sudden, now you're a felon using steroids. So it was really, really bad. And, then it was funny, you had police looking for people. Now they're going to jail.
Do you have a prescription? You go into the pharmacy in Jersey?
Yes. Yeah. Well, back then you could get a prescription.
Yeah. Before it became a controlled substance.
Yes, very easily. Because it was like
antibiotics.
It was like antibiotic. The same thing as an antibiotic. You can get D-ball, Winstrol, Deca, all these. Yeah, it's when I moved to California, it's funny. Right. I was there and going there to compete for the nationals. Right. They're like, okay, where do we get my gear? Oh, there's a pharmacy up the street. You just go there. The guy would like, what do you need? And it's just like, you just give me ordering all the shit that I would need. And, you know, my Winstrol, my Anavar.
I feel bad for the guys today because there's no access.
The problem is you can't get access and you don't know what's real.
No.
You could tell, like, there's guys competing and all of a sudden he looks like crap and like, oh shit, he got a bad dose of stuff.
Or he has doing nothing, you know.
So here's what I want to talk about. You see guys, like, my era didn't have it as much because I think we were still like teaching you guys,
right?
You know, like what to do. And like we talked on our other episode of like no fats, or now found out that eating fats actually help you in growing. But here was something that we started seeing these guys, and it was like, it changed in 1992 when Dorian Yates came into the picture. 100%. When Dorian Yates came into the picture, he still wasn't that big because he went into 91 Olympia, then 92. He still wasn't that big. And I always tell Lee, because he's a good friend of mine, I said, if you would have competed, you would have won 9 Olympias. Easily win 9 Olympias. You would have beat Dorian. But 93, it was a game changer. Dorian went into that show. I guess it was like, he looked like he was 50 pounds bigger. It was just,
you say he was over dieting in 92 because he was so consumed with being shredded.
Yes.
They overdid it.
He overdid it. But then when you saw him, and you remember those black and whites, they showed him like this before and after. And this guy just like, he changed bodybuilding. So I always tell people like, I contribute to the sport, straight and glutes. I set the standard on being ripped in bodybuilding, which then people have to follow suit to be ripped. Dorian set the standard on size.
Absolutely.
And what you had is if you were genetically blessed with a very small torso, small waist, you can grow size and look really big. Now, if you had a little bit of a thicker waist,
you had to overcompensate.
You have to overcompensate.
And put even
but
more
the reason why is guys had to eat more. I was always afraid to eat. My diet, diet for a show was 2,800 calories.
Right.
I would maybe go down to 2,200 calories. Right. That was really low. I hear guys eating much more than I compete. Especially if you're like today's bodybuilders that are healthy.
What did you compete at? Like 220?
I competed anywhere between 208 and 225.
So you really didn't need more than that.
No, 225.
If you would have been 10 pounds heavier, you would have needed more food.
My other episode, we talked about eating more fats, increasing. I actually increased.
You might have been 15 pounds heavier.
I would have been 240.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, when I got injured, I was trying to do the size game.
Right.
And what got me out of bodybuilding in 1997 is I ruptured a disc in my neck. I was done. The year before, you could actually see atrophy. And I started placing lower, and I didn't know it at the time what it was, but it was, my neck was screwed up. Anyways, I was going into the New York Pro. It was around 240.
Wow.
Which was the heaviest I'd ever been. And I was by a lot, but I was eating. But let's get into what bodybuilders did, because people just think, oh, they just took more steroids. That's not the case. What happened is guys got smarter, like yourself, and learned to eat more, and knew they were going to get fat. But one thing it did to the physiques, people started getting something called bubble gut.
Right.
And you see these guys,
happens to me.
It's steroids. Look at them. They're taking insulin.
Right.
They're taking GH. It's a GH gut. Explain why you feel, and I see a lot of great pros, and I don't want to mention their names, but you said yourself you had a problem with bubble gut. But these guys that you would see, it's funny because they had to really try hard to keep their stomach in. When they turned around and did a back shot, you can't see them like,
well, I think number one, guys with long torsos distribute weight better over the midsection. So those guys had less of a problem with distended abdomens. Guys with short torsos, think Kai Breen.
Yes.
I had a short torso too. Which look
Kai Breen, I've seen some shows. That was really extended.
And what happens is when you have a fast metabolism and you're very big, you have to eat an enormous amount of food. I mean, the amount of food that I was eating 12 times a day, and I was guzzling shakes that were like filled the blender from the top to bottom.
How many calories are you taking?
I wouldn't even
do it over 10,000.
Probably, but I was eating enormous, and I was drinking a lot of shakes because you can't eat that much.
You can eat that much.
I would wake up in the middle of the night. Remember the old Ultra Fuel?
Oh yeah.
It was 100 grams of carbs. I would take a packet of metrics, which was about 40 grams of protein and 24 grams of carbs, and I would mix 100 grams of carbs from the Ultra Fuel, and I would drink that in the middle of the night. I'd never go to best my dog, and sometimes I would do 2. like one, and then like 2 hours later another one.
12 times.
So I was eating around the clock.
Yeah.
So my stomach always was full.
But what was your top weight?
319 at 5'10", you know.
Oh, yeah, a little taller than Dave.
Yes. So what I found was that my stomach was always really full. Now, when I dieted, that's not the case because I was eating a lot less food.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is the fascia, which is the connective tissue that holds your abdominal wall in, gets stretched out, almost like a pregnant woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happens is then, unless you're pulling your stomach in, it just flops out.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing. When you're young, though, if you notice, the young guys don't have that.
No.
Because their connective tissue is really tight.
Yeah.
But if you keep stretching it by eating, 10,000 calories a day, 8,000 calories a day, you get distension there.
Yeah.
Now, the guys that are the worst eaters, who have trouble putting size on, they never got distended stomach.
Yeah.
If you look at those guys, their abdominal walls were fine because they weren't eating. You weren't an overeater either. No. That's why I think you never really had a problem with it. But also, it's a size thing.
I got
if you were 260 on stage, you might have had a little bit of distension.
Well, I noticed when I said I was going to compete at 245. Yeah. I got my body weight up though, was 260. Right. To drop it back down, and that was the heaviest I ever was. I went, and when I ruptured this, it went from 240 down to 185.
Guys, we don't get fat when we can't train. We just lose muscle.
I just went down.
Look at Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler was eating an enormous amount of food, but he had a very long torso. Yeah. And so it kind of distributed the weight easily. I never really had a problem with that.
So guys out there, you understand what a bubble gut is. It's not from insulin, GH.
No. Well, here's the interesting thing. I had a lot of muscle here too.
But why had a muscular?
Muscle makes actually because I was squatting 600 pounds and deadlifting, but you need that to build muscles, right? So when I stopped competing and started downsizing, I stopped using the anabolics, everything like that. The musculature of the abdominal organs atrophy, just like any other muscle.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't have a distended stomach now, and I can vacuum my stomach now. But what happens is all that atrophies. Now, if I would eat an enormous amount of food, maybe my stomach would be distended. Like if we go and eat a buffet meal or something like that.
Everybody does.
The connective tissue still, as we get older, is still stretched out. That's why you ever see these old guys walking around, they get these big bellies hanging out.
Yeah.
It's not that they're that fat sometimes. It's just that they don't hold their stomach this way. And Milos always says, Milos says all he does is walk around holding his stomach all the time because you training your body to control the
funny. I constantly held my stomach when I was competing, right? Because I never wanted to relax my stomach.
No.
So you're always like
you were a very good poser. You were.
Well, I had to.
Every detail was amazing.
Yeah, I was talking about that, and in my career, what made me a great bodybuilder is combining all the things needed to be a great bodybuilder. Right. They said I didn't have the genetics. Okay, so what did I need to be different? I was the most shredded bodybuilder. Presentation, it was where that's presentation. Tan. Yeah. When you put it all together and you have all the factors, maybe you're not perfect.
You're polished.
So if you're polished, you end up beating guys that don't do the other things.
Yeah.
And I've always tell people, like, you want to be the best, leave no stone unturned.
I will say one thing that then really helped my stomach, because I think my best places were at the end of my career when I had shoulder problems or that, because I discovered fiber.
Really?
And gut health. No one talked about that in the late 90s, early 2000s, because I said, I got to figure out what's going on here. And when I started taking a fiber supplement twice a day, and I started taking probiotics and learning about that, I know infinitely more today than I knew then.
Yeah.
People are saying, anything you would regret, you would have liked to have known back then, gut health. I think I could have solved a lot of my gut problems.
So, bubble gut, take care of your gut. Use fiber. So for the new bodybuilders today, the upcoming guys because now they're huge. Look at guys like Derek Lunsford, 5'5" and I don't know how much he weighs.
Yeah.
Or
he's only 31, but he'll have to watch this as he gets older.
So for guys coming up, important to implement good fiber.
Yes. I sent Nick Walker a case of fiberless. He said it's like a miracle, he said.
He says his stomach is flatter. And probiotics.
Probiotics. If you've wrecked your gut, you might have to do some probiotics first. Actually, I have a protein pudding. It's an instant pudding.
Nice.
Protolyzed that has 7 strains of probiotics in it that are shelf stable, so you don't have to refrigerate it.
Nice.
So I know a lot of people use that product for gut health. If you have to eat a lot of food, and I've talked about this with Hunter Labrado, Lee's son, because he has a really crazy metabolism too.
Yeah.
Denser foods. So
what's denser?
What state I'm going to give you? You always say to me, how did you do the McDonald's thing?
Yeah.
Well, I knew I needed to slow my metabolism down. So rather than eat, 20 cups of rice per meal.
Yeah.
I said, I can get more bang for my buck if I eat McDonald's cheeseburgers. So I slowed my metabolism down with that, with all those greasy, dense calories, but it doesn't take up a lot of space. And so I was figure out how to eat denser foods, like more red meats, but smaller portions, as opposed to tons of fish and rice. Like I would eat a pound of fish and 3 cups of rice at every meal. And his stomach was like this because it's too much volume. So you have to figure out how to reduce the volume, but yet still get the bang for your buck, enough protein and fat. So
you hear that, kids? You guys who want to get big, dense food. You know,
if you have a fast mentality.
If
there are other guys that just look at a card and they get weight.
They get fat. If you're fat,
don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, you and I have really fast metabolisms, and I could eat steak and I don't know what, I got so strict in the end because here's another thing. As a pro bodybuilder, it was like every other weekend I was posing, going somewhere, and I had to be in shape. So then it's like, shit, I got to not only like get ready for the Olympia, but I got to stay in shape. Because I'm really fat. People are paying me to pose on stage.
Think about this: 6 whole, or I used to eat 10 whole eggs in the morning with like a little cup of oatmeal. As opposed to eating 12 whites with 2 cups of oatmeal. Think about the volume difference.
That's what I would eat. But
you get more bang for your buck with the whole eggs. So you got to go with denser foods if you have a fast metabolism.
And again, don't forget your fats. Have your omega-3. Have your
avocados are great.
So you have a really good fat. You gave it to me, and I'd love it. The macadamia.
The reason I love macadamia oil is because I was first of all, I found out that most of the olive oil on the market is fake.
Really?
Yeah, you're in Italy, it's all real. But they put soybean oil in it. They lie.
Holy. And so you're eating soybean oil.
Soybean oil is terrible for you. Okay, but extra virgin olive oil is good for you, but there's very few pure brands of it on the market. It's
very expensive.
And it's light sensitive. So once you crack a bottle, if you don't use it within a month or two, you find it totally garbage. It's in those rancid. You can't cook with it because it has this low smoke point, so it burns. Macadamia oil has a high smoke point, over 400 degrees. You can cook with it. It's not light sensitive. It doesn't oxidize, and it tastes like butter. I actually put it on my kids like toast.
No, you sent me a couple bottles, and I really
it's delicious. My kids don't even want butter. If I put butter on their stuff, they're like, "What did you do to the bagels or toast?" I'm like, I ran out of back. I don't want to run over to my building and get a bottle of Michael. So, and it's higher in monounsaturated fats than olive oil. So it's a great source of fat. It's really the perfect fat to put in your diet. Wow. And you can add it to shakes for the extra fat. It's so easy. And low volume. A lot of bang for the buck.
So you can get bigger.
Yeah.